Good morning, afternoon. We'll call the Ordinance Committee meeting of January 13th to order, and if we could have a roll call.
Member Gutierrez.
Present.
Committee Member Rouse.
Here.
And Chair Sin.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. And do we have any public comment for items not on the agenda?
Chair Sin, we do not.
Okay. With that, I'd ask City Attorney Doimes if you could remind us where we are in terms of public comment and where we left the last meeting.
Sure, Chair Sneddon. So as we open up our first and only item for today on amendments to the massage ordinance, we are continuing the item from December, our last meeting with the Ordinance Committee. Last we left off, we had staff presentation, we had questions from the council, and we offered public comment. So now we're in deliberations. We didn't close public comment, so we should open it up. But the Ordinance Committee really has a very hard stop time because we can't brush up against council, and we want to make sure we now having two meetings move forward. So my recommendation to ensure that we have a robust deliberation, ask questions, and decide in what fashion or form this moves forward to council, to limit public comment, to give an opportunity, but at least to limit it, especially if people have already spoken at the last one. So my suggestion is to make a motion for, after we open up this item, to make a motion to limit public comment to 1 minute each speaker for a cap of 20 minutes. That ensures at least that the time to have a full discussion, as there's several issues I think that need to be at least questions are addressed today. So if you, after we open up, if you want to make a motion, you may.
Okay, thank you. And are we ready to open the item?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so then I suppose I'll, because the language was provided to me, I'll go ahead and
Correct. And the
motion,
first,
okay.
Chair Senator, first thing, we'll open up public comment, allow for that, and then go into deliberations, and we can end with that. So that
Okay.
would be.
Thank you. And do we have public comment today?
Chair Sneddon, we do. So I will start calling the individuals to come up to the mic. I'll announce.
Hold on, let council members, Chair Senator make the motion first to
Okay,
set
that
the
was my
parameters.
question, sorry.
Yep.
Okay. So we're now taking up item 1, amendments to the massage ordinance, which is continued from the prior meeting. The public comment is reopened for this item. Let's limit each speaker to 1 minute and a total of 20 minutes allocated for public comment, just because we have our time certain. These limits will ensure that the ordinance committee itself has time to deliberate. So is the motion to reopen?
No, then you can get a second and have that be
Okay.
the public comment limitation if you want.
So if there's a second?
So move.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Rouse. So we have a motion and a second, if we could have a vote on that.
Motion moved by Sneddon to reopen public comment, limiting public commenters to 1 minute with a max of 20 minutes. And then seconded by Committee Member Rouse. We'll go ahead and take a vote. Committee Member Gutierrez.
Yes.
Committee Member Rouse.
Aye.
And Chair Sneddon.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And with that, can we have public comment? Yeah.
We can. Let's get started. Our first speaker is going to be Colin Silverman, followed by Larry Traeger.
Hello, my name is Colin Silverman. I believe on the website it said that I had 3 minutes to speak, and that was not updated. So the idea of only doing a minute is not enough time to cover the points I have. So I'd like to have additional time.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So my name is Colin Silverman. I've owned and operated the Deep Tissue Massage Center here in Santa Barbara for 30 years. I work and get referrals from orthopedic surgeons, physical therapists, chiropractors, all sorts of people. I work very closely with these other professionals in the community. I want to talk about a couple of things. First of all is the idea of having to do the 250-hour massage program for me, because I have a license that I got in 1996. When I first started doing massage, I had 250 hours at that time. I've since been working for 30 years, and I've worked on thousands of people. So I have a lot of experience under my belt. The idea of going back to school for a 250-hour program is a real hardship. And it's not only, first of all, I don't think people realize that The cost of a program like that, a 250-hour program, is anywhere from $3,000 to $7,000. You're putting on a small business like a massage therapist who's not making a great amount of money and living in an expensive place. The second thing is that you're also taking time away from that massage therapist where they could be working on clients and making a better income, as well as supporting the community to keep people healthy, which I think is in the best interest of everybody. A full-time massage therapist, if they have, say, 10 years experience, full-time, if they've been doing that full-time for 10 years, they've already worked on 7,800 clients. I think that value of the sheer number of bodies they've worked on and the people they've had to confer to about certain cases and people they're trying to help far outweighs the value of a 250-hour course that's going to set me back financially. And I think that a lot of these courses also that they're asking us to take are basic courses, not advanced courses that could actually help us with our future skills. Obviously, it's expensive to live here. We're not getting rich doing this, but massage therapists do this because they love helping people. And I think that's important to keep in mind because this could hinder them. I would ask you to consider the idea of grandfathering in therapists that have, say, over 10 or 15 years experience, or at least give us some sort of test to acknowledge, for us to show our knowledge base and be able to prove that. Now, I just heard through the grapevine that Solvang already did a grandfathering in, and I would encourage you to potentially do the same. Because I think the idea behind this, I understand what the CAMTC wants, but in this case, you're going to put legitimate massage therapists out of business potentially, and the people that are doing these illicit activities will always find a way to continue to do so because that's what they do and that's what criminals do. So I feel like this is, in some way, punishing the small business owner in Santa Barbara, especially those that are trying to do good. The next thing I wanted to talk about was the ordinance itself, because...
You're at time, I'm sorry.
Pardon
That's
me?
with the
Is that
3
it?
minutes of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Larry Traeger, followed by Jillian Horbach.
So I'm Larry Traeger. I've been in practice well over 40 years. I was very fortunate about 5 or 6 years ago, CAMTC offered grandfathering. I only had 200 hours from a Santa Barbara school, and I was able to grandfather in. That's not available to current massage therapists. They've got to run the whole 500, 550 hours. So I'm going to echo some of the things that Colin just said, a permanent grandfathering for those folks who qualify, that they've got years in practice. They've qualified in Santa Barbara with that 200 to 250 hours, and let them continue to practice. And if there's some kind of reassurance that you need, some kind of test, some kind of something, just do that. What I'm encouraging is to use a scalpel. Use a scalpel rather than a duller instrument in crafting this ordinance. And I've been wondering if the City Council has approached the Asian and Thai communities in their language to include them in this conversation. They've got a whole bunch of places in the Santa Barbara area, and their English, from what I've experienced, not so good. So I'm just wondering if they're able to have their say in this conversation. I won't take any more time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jillian Horbach, followed by Miriam Lindbeck.
First, I want to thank everyone for allowing me to speak. And I'll kind of skip to the main points here just because of time. So I really want to highlight that I began this program. I'm a student right now, completing my 250 hours. I began this program with the understanding that I could start practicing after completing the 250 hours. This expectation shaped my plans and finances, and I structured my future accordingly. With this possibility, I would not have been able to start the program at this time. Therefore, I respectfully urge that we continue allowing practitioners to begin working after 250 hours, at least the ones that started the program before this new ordinance was a part of the conversation. This flexibility is crucial for us to gain practical experience and generate income, ultimately helping us complete the full 550-hour requirement. With this flexibility, many aspiring therapists, including myself, may struggle financially and be unable to complete the full 550-hour requirement. I propose that we consider an extension period that includes not only practitioners, but also practitioner students, perhaps 18 to 24 months, so that we can afford to complete the full training while also serving our community effectively.
Thank you, Ms.
I-
Helbig.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Miriam Lindbeck, followed by Sarah Veek.
Good afternoon, Council. Thank you again. I have been a massage therapist for 45 years. I have over 1,500 hours of certified training. Buried in a 45-year file, someplace in the back of my storage unit, which I will dig out. I work with chiropractors, physical therapists, and medical doctors who refer their clients and patients to me for further work that they are not able to do. I think that the massage therapist in Santa Barbara, depending upon their number of hours and upon their experience base, should be classified as a healthcare practitioner. I myself am back in school studying electrical medicine, trauma therapy, and cosmetology, and those things will be applied under my license. And I do think that we need to break out our therapists according to their existing training and their experience base. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Lundbeck.
Sarah Veek, and then following Sarah Veek will be Ronald Buckley.
Hi, I'm a volunteer with the 805 Immigrant Coalition, and Catherine, another volunteer, and I spent a couple of days canvassing the Asian massage businesses in town. We found that some businesses hadn't even heard of the new ordinance. Their concerns are very similar that those other massage therapists have expressed here, but I just think there's an accessibility issue around. It should be a lot easier to copy-paste the ordinance into Chinese or Thai, and it should be easier to find the link to the meeting and the interpretation service if you're going to regulate people's businesses out of business under the insinuation that they're sex traffickers. They should at least have an opportunity to hear it in a language they understand. And there's a reason that "Nothing about us without us" is a popular slogan. It's not just about justice or democracy, but good policy.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ronald Buckley. After Ronald Buckley will be Jeanette Cross.
Good morning, council members. I'm Ron Buckley. I'm a certified massage therapist from the California Therapy Council. I just have two comments to make. One, concerning about the fees for the sole proprietors. I used to be a sole proprietor. I'm retired now. I just do cranial sacral, and I do it free. Have you seen an analysis of the costs, the $275? How many sole proprietors are there in town, and what's the justification for charging them? The CMTC was established to prevent cities from charging massage therapists excessive amounts. It's one of their functions if you read their goals. So I'd like you to consider an evaluation of the fees, please. And finally, there's a lot of holes in the ordinance, mainly the people that have already talked that have been massage therapists for many years. There's no way for them to get certification through the current ordinance. There's no exemptions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Buckley.
Jeanette Cross. Following Jeanette Cross will be Priya Alvarez.
Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Jeanette Cross, and I've been a licensed massage therapist for 33 years. I appreciate the efforts of local law enforcement to protect our community, and I'm heartened by the willingness to take into consideration our public comments from the hearings so far. The proposed massage ordinance appears to be crafted with good intent. However, it reveals a lack of understanding of how the massage profession works. For example, the limited exception or grandfathering in of currently certified providers would become invalid when a practitioner changes employment within the city. In reality, It's essential that we have the flexibility to carry our credentials with us and freely go where the work is. The nature of this work is varied, and many of us work in different places in any given week. So I respectfully invite and request consideration to slow down the process to allow real opportunity to weave in thoughtful input and valuable perspectives from the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cross.
Priya Alvarez. Following Priya Alvarez will be Marlene Zoller.
I would like to request 2 minutes to speak because I was also prepared for the 3 minutes.
Please,
like
go
the other
ahead.
Speaker. So some of my sentiments are going to echo some of the other people's sentiments. My name is Priya Alvarez, and I have been practicing massage therapy for 30 years. And I've built a professional career serving this community safely, ethically, and responsibly for 13 of those years. I'm here because the proposed changes to Santa Barbara's massage ordinance would require seasoned professionals like myself to return to school to obtain 500 hours of education in order to continue practicing, due to the fact that the CAMTC won't recognize my massage school, which closed in 2013. For someone who works full-time just to afford living in a place as expensive as Santa Barbara, this requirement presents an insurmountable hardship. The cost of tuition alone would be in the thousands of dollars, not to mention the hundreds of hours of unpaid time required to complete the program. Simply put, this isn't feasible. What is most troubling is that without an exemption, my 30 years of hands-on experience, continuing education, and proven track record would effectively mean nothing under this new ordinance, and I would be treated the same as someone just entering the profession, as if decades of real-world practice, professional growth, and community trust carry no value. I ask you to pause and put yourselves in my position. Imagine being told that after decades in your profession, the education and training you relied on to build your career are suddenly deemed insufficient, not because of a change, lost my place. Not because of any misconduct or public safety issue, but because of a change in local law. Anyway, sorry.
You're good.
I can't, anyway, the point is, I'm just going to scrap this because it's too much and I'm running out of time, but I'm just asking for an exemption like everybody else, for people like myself that have been in practice for decades and not criminals and followed all the rules and the laws. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Alvarez.
Our next speaker is going to be Marlene Zollner, followed by Shelley Versus.
Hi, my name is Marlene Zollner, and I've been a resident of Santa Barbara since 1969. In 1977, I established the Santa Barbara School of Massage, the first massage school here in the California South Coast area. Thank you. I have some students, former students from way back then here today. We were a 200-hour program. We were licensed by the California State Department of Education, and we were also licensed by the California Board of Registered Nursing to provide continuing education for nurses. So I am well aware of all of the value that massage therapists continue to provide in our city and in our county and in our whole state. I had a longer thing, but I'm also already running out of time, which is too sad. I'll write an email. But I want to request that people that have been doing this for decades and have been providing amazing care be allowed to continue in a way that will not harm in any way, shape, or form their well-being financially or professionally. And I really appreciate your serious consideration about this. If you want to contact me further, please do. You'll have my email. I've been involved with this for many, many years. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Solmer.
Shelley Versus, followed by Rachel DeRoss.
Thanks for doing this, guys. I'm Shelley Versus. I went to Marlena School in 1983, and I did all my free hours of massage, mostly on athletes here in Santa Barbara. And some of those guys went on to big U.S. national level and pro sports, and so did I. I became a therapist, and I also became a state-approved instructor in sports massage at Marlena School. I worked the '84 Olympic Games, and we swept with 9 medals, and I went on to work as the first female in Europe as a soigneur, a massage therapist that works with the athletes. Because of this level of education at my school here in Santa Barbara, when I used to go in and ask The students, why are you here? Most of them used to say, for health and healing. And I think that's the premise. I went on to work in many medical areas. That's what I do for a living. That's what I have done for a living. But I agree. I love the grandfathering part of what you hear today. And I thank all the cops that are here for listening with your hearts and minds and the people that showed up today. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Versus.
Our next speaker is Rachel DeRoss, followed by Katie Mickey.
Hi. My main concern is the discrepancy in the fees for sole proprietors versus larger businesses. I think it would make more sense to have the fee according to how many therapists are working at a place and bringing in funds to a business. Because at this point, it's $300 some for a whole business that may have 10, 15 therapists versus $200 some for one person. And that's just too large a discrepancy and too much of a burden for those of us who are living in an expensive city. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Doris.
Our next speaker is Katie Mickey, followed by Gabrielle Racklew.
Thank you for scheduling a second meeting for you to fully hear the public comment and ask your questions. Today, I'm speaking on behalf of my current massage practitioner students as a school owner, and I ask you to grant a temporary exemption to not only the practicing massage technicians within Santa Barbara City, but also those who have enrolled in our practitioner program before the revisions to the ordinance became public knowledge. Our current students will need time, just as our currently practicing massage technicians, to meet the educational requirements. I also speak on behalf of the therapists in Santa Barbara who will be required to obtain a sole proprietor permit. Can you assure us that we are only being charged for the cost of administering the yearly site visits by submitting a fee study? And can you please clarify why the fees are not included in the massage ordinance? Does that mean that these fees can be changed without the review process we're currently going through? And I'd love to announce something on the state level, but if my time is up, I accept that.
You can finish your sentence.
Okay,
Yeah, thank
so
you.
I want to share extraordinary news on the state level. As of January 1st, 2026, the state of California officially recognizes CMTC certificate holders as healthcare providers. And we are now one of only 3 states to designate massage therapists as healthcare providers. And I'd love to give you examples of how significant that is. And I understand my time's up. If you'd like to hear that, I'd be happy to share.
I think in honor of all the people who want to speak, thank you. Yeah.
Our next speaker is Gabriella Racklew.
Hi, thank you for doing this and for allowing us to speak up. I'm finishing my 1,000 hours. I'm at 900, and I've been practicing since 2010. I'm just going to speak to when I first heard about this. The fees felt outrageous. They feel like punishment. My question is, what's being done now about this? Why? So taking care of trafficking is going to help everybody in the city. Why are we, just massage therapists, having to carry this burden? I think every business, why not put this on to every single person in the city? Because everybody's benefiting from it. And the hours, what's the justification for it? Why it's been going so far so good? This has to do with trafficking. What does trafficking have to do with increasing the hours? It's always good to take more classes, but the why for right now. So it just, nope. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gabrielle.
Our next speaker is Jenny Zane, followed by our last speaker in chambers will be Paul Brown.
Thank you very much for your time. My name is Jenny Zane. I'm a therapist here in the town since 2011. And I've seen a lot here. I've seen it being very busy. and very lucrative for therapists. But something I haven't heard mentioned yet is the inflation right now, how it's affected the businesses already. And a lot of businesses are lucky if they get enough work for their therapists already. And I can't imagine what it would be like, actually, for them to try to go back to school when sometimes they only have maybe a couple massages a day where they used to have 6. So that's a pretty major difference in their income, and I want to speak for that. Also, I know it's very hard to regulate and to go in and talk to people about what's happening. So I don't know what the answer is for anybody, but I'm not sure that charging therapists more is really the key. So please consider not doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zane.
Our final speaker in chambers will be Paul Brown.
Hi, thanks for allowing me to speak. I also thought it was 3 minutes, so if I could have another minute. Anyway, I've been doing craniosacral therapy for almost 24 years, and would like to give you a quick synopsis of what CTS is and why it should not be included under the proposed massage ordinance regulation. CST is not a massage in any way. There's no rubbing of muscles or friction against, manipulation, stroking, kneading, rubbing, adjustments, clothes stay on, and there's no use of any oils. In CST work, I use, when needed, particular techniques that are gentle, subtle, light, refined, holding in a certain area, and my touch is normally about the weight of a nickel. My work detects and corrects imbalances in the cerebrospinal fluid, which nourishes and maintains the delicate balance of the central nervous system and structures surrounding and protecting the brain, spinal cord, and sacrum. I also help the body decompress, which means to allow the body to find its space to move more freely. After all this time, my fingertips have become sensing, feeling, intuiting little brains in which I detect this movement or lack thereof, and therefore help recalibrate the body's system, allowing the body to return to a more balanced and healthy condition, with the body coming into a more relaxed state. I have neurologists and chiropractors refer to me because they've needed a much lighter and or deeper touch on their clients. I have written CST articles or magazines and even our local independent, and have written a book describing CST in much more detail, which is available for review. Some of the uses of CST is migraines and headaches, chronic neck and back pains, stress, tension, and anxiety, temporomandibular joint dysfunction. And as someone on the council or the committee is interested in exploring this more, I offer a free session so one can get a really fully understanding of
Thank you,
how
Mr.
this all
Brown.
works. Thanks very much.
Thank you. And we have speakers online.
We do, Chair Sneddon. Our first speaker will be Dustin Hoyseth. Dustin, please go ahead.
Hello, Chair Sneddon and council members. I'm Dustin Hoyseth, Director of Public Policy for the Santa Barbara South Coast Chamber of Commerce, representing business interests from Goleta to Carpinteria. While the Chamber supports the police department in their efforts to address human trafficking in our community, we do oppose the proposed ordinance unless amended. From a policy standpoint, the two main issues we have identified with the ordinance are, first, the requirement of the CAMTC certification. As has been mentioned previously, these 500 hours of training will mean 250 more hours for a lot of massage therapists who have been practicing within the city for years, some with over a decade or more of experience. Second, the requirement for all employees having to undergo live scan. This is an unnecessarily burdensome process for positions like front desk receptionists, which have a high turnover, which would mean they'd have to be doing these live scans quite frequently. And these are folks that are not even participating in massage services. These two items seem like arbitrary additions to the ordinance if the ordinance's true purpose is combating human trafficking. And so I ask that you please consider adapting the ordinance to explore an option to grandfather in some of these existing massage therapists that are currently considered compliant, and to limit the live scan requirements to only employees who are offering massage services. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hoyseth.
Our next speaker is Maxine Dugan. Maxine, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. My name is Maxine Dugan. I'm with the Erotic Service Providers Legal Education and Research Project, and we are standing in opposition to the Santa Barbara Police Department's proposed massage ordinance. We find it completely inappropriate for the fraternity of the Santa Barbara Police Department to be putting forward changes to a group of workers' conditions without their express permission. The Santa Barbara Police Department proposed massage ordinance to increase surveillance and fees is completely inappropriate, and it looks very much like an opportunity to harass and extort an already possibly marginalized group of massage workers that are women, women of color, and in some cases, immigrant women. The fact that the Santa Barbara mayor and the council has not taken the time to do proper cultural outreach to the group of workers that they are targeting is in itself a form of xenophobic violence. And you should not be rubber stamping this 17-year-old archaic law. Instead, you should consider an ordinance to make it a felony crime for the police department to have sexual contact with anyone they are investigating for prostitution and sex trafficking. Prohibit the police department from arresting victims of sex trafficking for prostitution. And prohibit the police department and other faith-based organizations to be involved in any diversion programs. And finally, mandate that the police department return all property seized in prostitution and human trafficking raids within 30 days of conclusion of any court actions without being asked. Thank you,
Thanks
Ms.
for taking
Dugan.
my public testimony.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Rachel Sun. Rachel Sun, please go ahead.
Hello, my name is Rachel. I appreciate the opportunity to comment today. I am a licensed social worker who has done extensive outreach and organizing among massage workers for 5 years. I am a Chinese American. I can do outreach with them in their cultural and preferred language. A lot of folks before me are asking for exemptions, and I also ask on behalf of hundreds of massage workers that me and some of my colleagues have worked with to absolutely, resolutely vote no on this proposed ordinance on behalf of both LMTs and also the most vulnerable and marginalized workers in the massage industry. I believe that all workers in the field should be able to practice safely with dignity, and I also completely understand the concerns around trafficking and safety. I'm not trying to negate that the fact that labor exploitation across all industries exists. However, this ordinance does not substantially help with any of these concerns. Punitive and carceral responses to noncompliance, like this bill is suggesting, pushes workers further underground. They're less likely to seek help in events where they're actually in danger or at risk. We frequently see instances, for example, where an unlicensed massage parlor is robbed and/or workers are assaulted and the employees are too afraid to call police or seek medical help because they're afraid that contact with these institutions will get them deported. This approach has well-documented effects of displacement and deportation of massage workers. We can say with confidence that it does not help trafficking victims or increase safety. I will repeat that there are some truly protective factors from trafficking and from worker exploitation. These are well-researched, well-documented efforts to meaningfully address trafficking and improve worker safety and working conditions. Those are stable income and housing, increasing and funding language access and outreach, establishing worker networks and community connection, and giving them more access to healthcare, legal support, and labor rights, not limiting them. So thank you for your time. Please, I urge the council members to protect our community and vote no on this proposed ordinance.
Thank you, Ms. Sun.
Sorry. Our final speaker will be Catherine Chen. Catherine, please go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Catherine. I appreciate the time today to participate, and I appreciate what everyone with decades of massage experience is saying about how these changes in law will negate their experiences and pose huge barriers of time and money that they can't afford. And as someone who works with massage workers, Chinese massage workers, in championing their rights, these problems, the inaccessibility of massage licensure, have always been present for them. These migrant workers have generations worth of cultural knowledge, like 推拿、刮痧、拔罐, that are not encompassed by a license or programs that are not provided in Chinese. And as poor migrant workers, they are often scapegoated by police and law enforcement and labeled as sex traffickers or trafficked and positioned as people with zero agency in their lives, when in reality they've had to fight for everything and are often supporting many family members abroad. And I'd like to echo what Rachel was saying. Workers' rights, like affordable housing, strengthened labor rights, are the answer to trafficking, not cracking down on the massage industry, which not only impacts the most vulnerable that I just highlighted, but also everyone in the system, including licensed massage therapists, including everyone who has spoken today. So I really urge the council, please vote no on this proposed ordinance. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Chen. Do we have any other
Chair
public
Sneddon,
commenters?
no further speakers.
Okay, thank you. And I appreciate people's brevity so that we could get to the discussion. And so now it is to the committee. If we have, Mr. Doima, City Attorney.
Sure. I thought I'd be helpful, at least to kind of organize a discussion. I know a lot of issues and points were made by the public, and I'm sure the committee has a lot of questions. And so I thought maybe kind of organizing some of the highlights that would help, at least to where staff needs guidance. And I thought I would take the last issue I hear most comment on, last I have the deliberation on, but certainly not least. The first issue is on home occupation. I think we mentioned at the last meeting right now that there's a prohibition currently in our zoning code for home occupations regarding massage therapy. I don't know if I believe it's being enforced on, but it's there in the books, and so we would need guidance either to continue and just allow what's in the zoning code, or under this ordinance, provide an exemption for home occupations as compared to the zoning code. And we do have Mr. Busk on that issue. So I figured that would be a first topic, at least to get direction that would be really helpful for staff on that issue. Another issue we heard, quicker deliberation, would be on live scanning in terms of everyone there. And the final major issues, obviously, is the CATMC requirement. And we can discuss each fully from staff and get more questions when each issue comes up. And then at the end, we noticed 3 clerical errors we'd like to make some corrections on. So, but if you'd like to take the home occupation issue first, we would love to get the ordinance committee's feedback on that issue. We do have Ms. DeBus, the Community Development Director, here as well to help answer any questions.
Thank you. And I might add to that framing discussion list, the fees is another question to add into there too, and if there are any others in the framing as we head forward. Mayor Rouse.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So once again, we talked about home occupation a little bit in the last meeting and how the zoning code works on that and the intent of home occupation, not as it just pertains to this business, but doing business in residential neighborhoods in general. And as I recall, the spirit of that ordinance or the zoning was about having, traffic cars, or for example, if you were a sole proprietor or you had an employee or two, the appropriateness of that in a residential zone as opposed to having a brick and mortar business. And I see Mr. Buss getting up to bail you out here, Mr. Doimus. And I don't know how that currently reads, Mr. Busk, but I know in the past that was when people had customer-related businesses, or their zoning is for residential and not for business. And so I don't know how we define that line and how it applies to what we have in front of us today.
Committee Member Rouse, that is correct. The intent is to maintain compatibility with the existing residential neighborhood. In that regard, home occupations are not allowed to have employees, which is that is one difference with how the massage ordinance is currently written, and so that's something that we could address. But they are allowed to have people visit with the home occupation, just not allowed to have employees.
Okay, thanks for that clarification.
Thank you. Okay, and then I'm going to also add to the framing discussion cultural outreach. I think that's come up a couple times too. So do we want to open it for questions? Mayor Rouse.
I just have one overarching question we talked about a little bit earlier today in the office is, so our current code, we're trying to catch up with the state code. And if we have omissions in our current local code, what are the consequences of that what would that do in terms of our procedures, and what would that do in terms of fees if we had to change the standard or try to function other than in the realm of the state code? I don't know exactly if I'm addressing this to Chief or if I'm addressing Mr. Doimus, or?
No, actually, I would like to bring up Assistant City Attorney Heather Minter, kind of to address the issue. So if I understand the question correctly, right now we have a recommendation to follow the requirement of the CATMC, and let's handle that issue now quickly. And so the ordinance in its current state requires having 500 hours of educational experience. There is a kind of a runway to allow for 3 years for people to obtain that. We have heard public comment. I do understand the difficulty of going back to school to get that. But that is kind of what the CATMC requirement is in that. There are pitfalls if we don't follow the CATMC requirement. I'll turn to Ms. Minter to address that, especially in terms of the administrative burden and potentially the fees and costs. So Ms. Minter, if you'd like to speak to the issue of what we have in the ordinance, and if we provide an exemption where we just follow our own kind of licensing procedure for a permit, what would that mean for the police department, the requirements, et cetera?
And if you don't mind, if you wouldn't mind folding in that there's been the idea of grandfathering brought up a few times by the veteran massage therapist. So if you could fold that into your little soliloquy as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor Rouse, Chair Sneddon, and Committee Member Gutierrez. My name is Heather Minter. I'm a Assistant City Attorney, and I've been working on this ordinance with Santa Barbara Police Department. As far as the kind of overall background, no, CAMT certification is not mandatory for massage therapists. So it's voluntary, and it's established by the state legislature through the Massage Therapy Act. And this is a tool for local governments and law enforcement to provide consistent statewide certification and oversight of massage professionals, and ensures the highest standard of conduct by vetting and disciplining certificate holders. So yes, the city can determine what level of education the massage therapist must have in order to obtain a massage establishment license in the city jurisdiction. However, if a massage therapist is a certified CAMTC certification, the city cannot require that massage therapist obtain further certification, schooling, medical exams, or background checks. So to loop that back around, yes, we could continue what we have now. We are not required to follow CAMTC. However, this is a state established by the legislature in order to assist the city with compliance and with law enforcement, considering the human traffic issues, considering the schooling necessary. The 500 hours includes certain classes such as business ethics, anatomy, physiology, and such, which perhaps weren't necessarily provided before. And then also it's important to understand that the CAMTC is a self-funded nonprofit. So their oversight of the massage therapist profession ensures full compliance with the Massage Therapy Act at no cost to the city. So without their oversight, that administrative burden will fall on the police department to regulate and track all massage therapists, which could potentially lead to an increase in fees for permitting across the board. And I know that's a concern. So that's something to take into account with the CAMTC certification. It does takes that administrative burden from the police department. Attorney Doimus, is there anything else you wanted me to cover?
No, I think Mayor Rouse, did that answer your question in terms of at least why we recommend it? And if we do not have that, which we're not required to, one of the pitfalls is that there would be an increase in cost because the administrative cost for implementing any permitting system would fall on the police department. And as you know, the police department, I'll let the chief speak on that in terms of our costs currently, we would need to recover such costs.
Also, if you don't mind, I'd just like to mention, as it was noted by one of the public speakers, the CAMT's, the new additions to the Massage Therapy Act that were enacted this year, now CAMT certified massage professionals will be recognized as healthcare providers, which tends to imply a higher standard of education and vetting to the general public who are seeking massage healthcare services. And so that's another thing to consider moving forward.
I would like to add. I'd like to add to that, by using camp for this, with that caveat of healthcare professionals. So if they receive a complaint, it's camp that takes their license to practice under this model. There's that regulatory, there's that oversight. Without that, then falls onto the police department. So if you have a massage therapist who is arrested for some type of sexual crime and prosecuted and successfully convicted, it's camp that's going to take their license to practice. So I want to just say, like, this isn't just about human trafficking, this is about all the other pieces and the appropriate regulation of healthcare professionals. We can talk about, there are some challenges with grandfathering. We certainly could come back, hopefully if you would allow us to move forward, we can, before we come back to full council, we could give you option A of not grandfathering, and we could look at what some options for grandfathering would be. We could look at if someone has 15 plus years of experience or whatever those pieces are, we could look at what those options are and come to full council with option A and option B. The last thing I would want to see is that this ordinance just stops right here because of that one issue as we move forward. So I would really, if it is the will of ordinance committee, we certainly can come back before full council with, here's option A, here's option B. In our current option, we give everyone, 3 years to meet that requirement. But if that is not the will of ordinance committee or not the will of council, we certainly can look at, a different standard of grandfathering. All the cities around us, we're not aware of anyone that has allowed grandfathering. We're trying to do more with this as we look at it because we think this is important and we are taking community feedback on that. But if we need to give more time, if we need to come up with an alternative, there are certainly challenges with it, absolutely. But what I would just ask of the ordinance committee is to allow us to move forward to full council, come up with an option A and have time to vet what a grandfathering that we think we could manage would be. I know the cost recovery issue came up, and based on what numbers we have, we believe there's approximately 45 massage establishments in the city right now, about 50 sole proprietors, and about 145 massage therapists. So when the number was asked about cost recovery and where that came from, we looked at the staff time that it would take for an inspection. So, for example, on a massage establishment with multiple, take a massage industry, for example, just because that's the first one that comes, with multiple therapists that work there. It's about 5 hours, we think, of our police coordinators' time to look at all of their records for all of their therapists, go in and do an inspection. About an hour, a little over an hour for one of our detectives to accompany when we do the site inspection. That's how that cost has come up with. So what we did is took the total cost for those establishments, the amount of time, divided it, because this is just cost recovery. This is not a revenue generating. We'd be happy to share that, but that's how those numbers were based. So like the $275 for a sole proprietor, that's based on 2 hours of our police coordinator's time every 2 years. So that's where that's based on. It's not a random number. It actually has a spreadsheet that goes with it. We certainly can share that before we go to full council with it, but that's where it comes from. And those are the approximate numbers just based on our business license data that we have from the city. It could change, but that is, it's not a random, and that's where those numbers are, and that's where we did our math from. So that just as an explanation for those couple of items with your question, Mayor Rouse.
No, I thank you. I do appreciate the thought towards discretion in terms of options and things that we can do. One of the concerns that came up today, and I'm not that familiar with the industry itself because I don't know if they have an association or if they're organized or just all independents, but they talked about communication with people other than English speakers, particularly in some of the Asian languages, which I know is we can do Spanish pretty well. but I didn't know, and I don't know how prevalent that is and how we can, because I think that the amount of communication, and I don't know where that's going to fall. I can't imagine trying to send out uniformed officers to every location and trying to figure that out. But the communication and the input from folks that may not even feel comfortable coming in here because it's not English or Spanish.
We certainly can make sure that we have translated into additional languages and make that available. We don't have any issue doing that. We can use translation services to do that. I think, though, as you heard with several of the speakers, I mean, I don't know that they're permitted even now. So, you know, we'll do our best to do outreach with that and to make sure that we're reaching out to all of them as we identify them. You know, there certainly are some challenges with that. You know, at our last ordinance committee meeting, Councilmember Gutierrez asked that we reach out to the Human Trafficking Task Force, which we did. They're very supportive of this. We also reached out to the DA's office through their victim witnesses. They're also very supportive of helping us with this and making sure that, you know, the public outreach is there, as well as STETSA, and making sure that there is appropriate victim advocates when we do come across human trafficking. So we are trying to be very mindful in our approach to this. We're not trying to, you know, I understand there's some that I think use the word targeting and other things, but that is not what we're trying to do. We are trying to be transparent and as fair as we can about this process and making sure that we're hearing all the concerns. Like I said, we can and will, not that we can, we will take those concerns as we move from here to full council to make sure that what we present to full council addresses some of those and that we can explain those things and we can do more public outreach as well as including additional languages before we go to full council. So, for example, if you vote to move it to full council today, we would take our time. We wouldn't go to full council for a couple months because we would want to make sure that we do that additional work in between. We're not trying to hurry this and try to get this done yesterday. We're trying to be thoughtful about it. We certainly hear the concerns. You know, we have contact information. I know we've had several folks reach out. You know, it's just like the craniosacral, we did not include when we came back because of the concerns. So we're open to all that and we're opening to make sure that we address those. You know, in terms of the concern regarding live scan for all employees, you know, we certainly can modify that. I think I've made my position and our position clear on why we think it is important. We're not trying to create a unnecessary burden, but it is an important piece. And although they are not putting hands on those, they are now in those environments where they have access, and we do think that is an important piece.
Well, this profession notwithstanding, human trafficking is a very serious issue in this county, so I'm supportive of whatever way we can approach that. I just want to make sure we do it correctly and not hurt small
Absolutely.
businesses.
And like I said, we can be thoughtful. You know, we can take the time that we need between coming to ordinance and becoming to full council and making sure that we address those issues and have clear explanations and have options for council when it's presented before full council.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Rouse, and Councilmember Gutierrez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Would it be possible to table this item a little longer to be able to appropriately contact some of the operators who aren't here or haven't spoken yet?
Chair Sneddon, Councilmember Gutierrez, the committee has several options. They could obviously vote not to put that forward. They could vote to make what staff recommendation. You can make changes to it. You can have council give options. You can, as you asked, you know, give instructions to staff to do outreach and come back at a later date. You also have the option to say we can approve a ordinance with options today and say before you bring it to city council to do outreach before that date. So that's another option. That way you're kind of combining moving it forward while still doing outreach at the same time instead of coming back in a third time before the ordinance committee. So you have a lot of options at your disposal. You can do each one. So you choose.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Chair Sneddon, Councilmember Gutierrez, if I could weigh in as well. I do think, like, given that we've been here twice now, and I feel like the police department is being very responsive to the input that we're getting from the community, including doing the additional outreach and the discussion about bringing forward a couple of different options for council to consider, that if you could find a way to direct us around what you'd like to see and bringing that to the full body, we would be happy to incorporate all of that, just so we can keep the conversation moving.
Okay. I can save my comments for later.
Okay.
Hold on.
Oh, you're still, yes, thank you.
Sorry, I still have more questions.
Oh, please, take your time.
So, Chief, you said that these proprietors would have 3 years to comply with the proposed ordinance if it's passed?
Yes, so anyone who doesn't currently have their camp massage technician certification would have 3 years to do that.
And what is the estimated time frame of how long it would take somebody to go through that process?
It depends on how many hours they have. A lot of our technicians that we have in the city would already qualify. I think there's some question about, what we have heard for technicians that received their initial schooling 30 years ago and what that would look like. So I can't give you a specific, for one person, it would take this long, because I think each individual situation is different. That's why we did the 3 years. And like I said earlier, we can come back with some different options. We can sit down with some of them and work through that and see what that would look like and give that as an option. But I can't give you, it'll take someone this amount of time. Typically that.
Wait, she's speaking. Thank you.
So, we can go back and we can have that conversation with the school and we can address that issue. And I think Jocelyn has something to add.
Committee Member Gutierrez, I have reached out to our local massage school, and like you may have heard, the owner is here, and I confirmed the school does have night classes available, and it sounds like the 3-year time range would be reasonable for a person to complete the additional 200 or 250 hours needed to fulfill the CAMTC requirement. That is my understanding from my conversation from the owner. But again, we can reach out and have additional conversations with our local massage school.
And what would be the penalties if they don't comply?
If they don't comply, they can't work if they wouldn't comply. They would be out of compliance. So they wouldn't be eligible to actually get their license to operate in the city if they don't comply.
But if you were to catch somebody in the act of doing massage therapy without the proper process.
We would shut the business down. We wouldn't allow them to operate. We could issue them a citation through the municipal code. It would depend on the circumstances of it, but ultimately, they would not be able to legally operate.
So what would be the citation exactly?
I can speak a little bit towards that. I may need to follow up and give you additional information, but from my conversations with City Attorney Denny Way, there's 2 routes we can go, the administrative route or the criminal route, which would be a citation. But it would most likely be administrative route, and that would begin with shutting down the business, because we can't allow the business to operate if they don't have the proper permits. We would have a hearing with our either chief of police or designee, and we would basically review all of the information, and we would attempt to settle it civilly and get them into compliance versus giving them a citation. So our first route would preferably be gain a compliance by the owner and massage therapist versus citation. If the administrative route does not work, then we would pursue criminal.
And City Attorney Doimus, I
Yeah,
think, has
if
a
I
comment.
may expand upon that. So our municipal code allows to make any violation either administrative penalty, and Title I provides a dollar figure. I can't recall exactly, but it's like $150 for the first violation within 12 months, $250, and so on, I think up to like $400 or $500 for each violation within a 12-month period. But any violation of our municipal code, unless it's specifically called out, can be filed up to a misdemeanor. So one example where it's an infraction is smoking in public. The code, our mini code says specifically shall only be filed as an infraction. So as Jocelyn said, the first step would be filing at least administrative citation route. So we're just talking about monetary, trying to get compliance with fines, working with that person to maybe reduce fines if they, follow steps, compliance, have a hearing as their due process right is. Obviously, if there's no compliance at any time, that doesn't preclude filing of a criminal complaint. And it is a misdemeanor, and the person must go to Raymond Court and deal with that issue. Any misdemeanor is punishable up to, I believe, 1 year in jail, and I forgot the fine amount. So that would be it.
So what would be the consequence if you actually caught them doing sex acts?
That's very different because that is a violation of the penal code. So depending on what that would be a criminal case, depending on the penal code section that was violated or multiple. And that would become a criminal filing and there would be a criminal proceeding as a result. So that could be depending on whether it's misdemeanor, whether it's felony, it depends on what the circumstances of the case are, but that's where Commander Miller and the Detective Bureau would come in and they would be the ones handling that criminal filing depending on the circumstances. If it's human trafficking and there's multiple victims or there's certain types of prostitution occurring, it would really depend on what the penal code violation and what the investigation showed, but that would be a criminal case filed by the district attorney's office and then handled in criminal court.
Okay. It's such a difficult thing to try to think about. So if an officer were to catch somebody in a situation where sex trafficking was occurring, how would they prove that? How would the officer prove that?
How would the officers prove it?
Right.
Well,
Is
they
it
have
just
to-
based off of their
It would be,
witnessing, or is there going to be, they're going to have their body cams on, or how is that going to be proven?
well, it would depend on the circumstances, but they would have to complete a full investigation. So the evidence would have to show that the elements of the crime were met for criminal prosecution. And the investigation then gets reviewed by the district attorney's office, and they decide whether they feel that we have met the evidence standard that we need, that they can prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt in the court of law for the filing to occur and for that criminal case to move forward. So it's not just about what an officer sees, it can be a combination, what the other evidence and the other things are with the circumstances of the particular case, because it could be a lot of different things. So I don't want to get into one specific scenario. It could be human trafficking, it could be prostitution, there could be, when we're talking prostitution, pay for sex or pay for a sex act. There could be a lot of different ways that is shown and proven. So we would prefer that we are doing inspections, and if we get a complaint, that we're able to shut it down before we need to go and do things at that high of a level of investigation. We'd rather shut it down early. That's the whole point of being able to do when we talk about inspections. So the yearly inspections are exactly that, where the yearly or bi-yearly, that is a pre-scheduled, where Jocelyn goes in with a detective and checks all of the things that are in the checklist. We only do an unannounced type of inspection if we have a complaint, and so we want to go see what we see, and we go in. That's not a break the door down or that type of thing. That's a knock and talk and go in and observe, and sometimes that can be very effective to shutting down illegal activity, because they're now put on notice, and a lot of times they will close up shop and be gone. We see that. When you have that ability to go do the inspection versus needing to go in and have a criminal warrant and have, that's a different. When we have a criminal warrant, we're going in with the intention of seizing evidence and making an arrest. That's the purpose of having that, whether it's an arrest warrant or a search warrant. We're looking for items that we have the judge and have met a burden of proof to have enough for a search warrant or a criminal arrest warrant. So that's why the whole point of this is to have that ability, if we get a complaint, to be able to make that unannounced inspection. The overall inspections are done yearly or bi-annually, depending on whether you're an establishment or a sole proprietor, that we're going through the checklist, we're looking for all the things, we're looking for that compliance. Like I said, then that unannounced is only used, and we, as a result of community feedback, we change that to the only time we're doing, and it says right in the ordinance, is if we have a complaint regarding the establishment, and hopefully we can, with that inspection, get compliance if it is something that we can get compliance on. Sometimes that just means that they will go someplace else where it is, they know that we're now watching them, and sometimes they will just close. That's also happens. And if we need to, then we need to do a full criminal investigation and get a warrant, then we will go that route for whatever is necessary in that particular case. So, and if, we've heard the community concern of, we're not looking to go, bust a door down and do those type of things. If we, as a result of this, do in fact find out that we have human trafficking, that's where we have the commitment of the Human Trafficking Task Force, we have the commitment of the DA's office, we have the commitment of STETSA of making sure that we have appropriate care for the victims of those pieces. This is not about us doing deportation. We don't do deportation. State law that's not why we're here. That is not our function, that is not our job, that is not the DA's job. That's not what we're doing. Our job is to protect the vulnerable victims regardless of race, regardless of socioeconomic status, regardless of immigration status. Our job is to protect them no matter what. And we take that very, very seriously. And that is part of this, this is Human Trafficking Awareness Month. The timing of that, not intentional, but not lost on me that we're bringing this ordinance before Ordinance Committee the second time during Human Trafficking Awareness Month. This is truly an issue in our community. This is truly an issue, not just in our community, but a bigger issue. And the agencies around us, what they're seeing as they enact these ordinances is that then these businesses are going, or quote unquote businesses, these activities are moving to communities that are not regulating it. And what I don't want is that then becomes where they go with Santa Barbara because we're not regulating it. Like I said, I think we can come up with different options and different things to meet the concerns regarding grandfathering, but this is a real concern. That is why we're here.
City Attorney Duemas.
Sure, and just, for the interest of time, but also so we don't stray too far from the Brown Act, I thought the lines of questioning were appropriate because we're talking about some of the provisions of the ordinance. I think there is sadly a recognition sometimes people use this industry against the goodwill of professionals for sex trafficking. We don't want to get too much into the discussion of sex trafficking, prostitution, or the criminal penalties. So I just want to give that caution out. That's all.
Sorry, can you repeat the last part?
I just want to give that caution out. We don't want to get too far into the line of questioning about criminality of sex trafficking or prostitution. So I recognize your line of questioning is good because you're talking about some of the intentions of the ordinance is intending to prevent. So that's appropriate, but just want to make sure we don't stray too far. That's all.
Okay, I was under the impression that that's the catalyst for this.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's fine. It's one of many catalysts, not the sole catalyst. No, like I said, it's fine. I just don't want to go too far down the weeds. So you're good. You're good. I would have stopped you earlier if you were not.
I just have one more question that's related
Yeah, no,
to
go-
it, so
go.
you can stop me if you like.
No, go for it. Go for it.
I'm sorry, did you have something you wanted to add?
I just wanted to mention to everybody, we have Rick McElroy, who's a representative for the California Massage Therapy Council. He's the law enforcement's relation officer. He may be able to give helpful insight on his experience with other agencies who have successfully incorporated California Massage Therapy Council in their ordinance, and what a well-structured ordinance can do to help law enforcement agencies. So if you would think it's helpful, I think it would be good for you to hear from him and the positive impacts.
Okay, so,
Let's do that as soon as Councilmember Gutierrez
yeah.
finishes his question.
So yeah, apologize if I'm getting too much into the weeds here, but, so let's say theoretically, there is a business with multiple therapists, right? Like one of the ones that are on State Street or what have you. And let's say one of them is participating in sex trafficking. Is the owner of that business held accountable for the acts of an individual therapist if they were unaware of it happening?
Councilmember Gutierrez, the answer is in the currently drafted ordinance, the owners and operators of massage establishments are jointly and severally liable for the activity of their employees.
Okay.
But with that, as Jocelyn referred to, when we have that, that's where that working with them to gain compliance and making sure, like, if there is a massage therapist that's engaging in criminal activity, that massage therapist will be, that criminal case will be against that massage therapist, not the establishment, not the owner of the establishment. That's where the administrative side comes in for the massage ordinance, where then we can make sure that we work with that owner, that these things are not occurring in their establishment, and that there is that penalty is if they don't become in compliance, then they could, in fact, lose their ability to operate. But the point is to get them in compliance and make sure that their massage therapists are not participating in that type of criminal activity. So the establishment itself, the owner of the establishment is not criminally, unless there is more to the story, so to speak, just based on what you're saying. If that were in fact the case, the fact of it, it would be the individual massage therapist that is criminally prosecuted for that case. And then we would work with the massage establishment owner to make sure that the practices and things that are happening are without of making sure that that's not occurring in their establishment, and we're looking for compliance with that.
And the same goes if it's just human trafficking?
Yes, I quite frankly am not sure how that could be occurring, how human trafficking would be occurring without the owner knowing in the establishment.
Right.
That's a bigger type of issue.
Right.
It would be very difficult for an individual massage therapist to be doing that without an establishment knowing.
Correct. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then I have a couple questions. Thank you. One is, and actually, I think you've answered this, which was the difference between a criminal warrant breaking down the door versus this type of business inspection, which is a different process. And I think you answered that one for me. Thank you. So the one, I'm going to have a couple questions on this is, I mean, Santa Barbara is a place of health and healing and many different types of massage. And I guess my real question is with the CMTC, and maybe speaking to the representative would be helpful too, but could there be a variety of licensing that's recognized? I mean, again, I'll frame it too. It's very hard for me to imagine my degree or my certificate that I got 20 years ago and have been practicing is now invalidated in some way. So could there be an incentive so that the practitioners who are CMTC certified and doing their permitting through that organization maybe don't have to pay the licensing fee because that's being handled someplace else, or something along those lines?
We certainly could look at that as part of the options.
Okay, thank you. I think that would be, I'll save that for comments, and I just wanted to know if that was possible to have that different.
Anything is possible.
Okay. Thank
Councilmember
you.
Sneddon, we certainly can go back and see what is reasonable.
Okay.
I don't want to commit. I can just say that we will certainly explore those options and see what we can do with that.
When you, and I appreciate that, very much. When you were counting the number of practitioners today, do they have business licenses at this point? Or how is that being recorded now?
Chair Sneddon, that is how we received the information. We contacted the business tax certificate office and we asked them to send us a list of all individuals and massage establishments related to massage therapists, massage practitioners, massage establishments, all those titles. We received a list and we reached out to them that way.
And is that one of the ways to be monitoring that establishment would have a business license, and that's already a way that we're sort of recognizing?
That's the best form that we found to use.
Okay, so I guess I'll save it for comments, but I think something looking through that business licensing and seeing if then there's maybe some kind of incentive for the CMTC certified types of businesses, because I'm just imagining and hearing actually that there are a lot of different recognized through business licenses operations. And then I had the question about, someone was saying about losing their license if they change positions within the city, and I wanted to maybe follow up with the CMTC.
I can let City Attorney Heather Minter speak, but it is my understanding that any massage therapist that would receive the limited exception certification is able to change employment and continue to hold their certification, but would need to contact the police department so we can update their new employment. So technically, if they hold a limited exception certification for massage establishment A and they move to massage establishment B, their limited exception certification for massage establishment A would be null and void, but we would reissue one for massage establishment B.
Okay.
So technically it would be voided, but we would reissue it with no problem.
Okay, thank you. That answers that question. Okay, I think what we should do is do one round of comments, and if you could speak to the home occupation, allow or not, the live scan question, whether just practitioners or also other employees, the question of the CMTC, and if there is a way to honor those that have already gotten their certification with less than 500 hours, the question of fees, and then input on cultural outreach. And if there are any other comments, obviously, if you want to make, but I think those are ones that would be important to comment on as we do around. Councilmember Gutierrez?
I have one more question for Attorney Doimus.
Absolutely.
Would this open us up to litigation of violating people's Fourth Amendment right?
Chair Sneddon and Councilmember Gutierrez, no, that's a very good question. No, our ordinance is balanced, and nothing contained in the language in the ordinance would open up to us have a violation. So there's nothing in the ordinance that we have in there that would be deemed illegal or unconstitutional. Now, obviously, going outside the ordinance is there to actually create kind of this safe parameter of like how we need to comply as a government agency. So not only the public could see, but the department follows those guidelines under the law. Obviously, if we acted outside of that, that would open up ourselves to liability. But those are individual actions. So ordinance or no ordinance, it doesn't matter. It's how we behave was what opens us up to liability. But the ordinance itself actually can be viewed as a protection because it sets the ground rules in place for us to follow.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, my comments would be that I don't want to kill this, but I don't feel comfortable moving it forward to council yet. I still have owners of massage therapy establishments reaching out to me saying that they essentially are just finding out about it now. So I want to give them time. And I know you offered an option where you could do that. But I just feel like if we could just table this one more time so that we can do as much outreach as possible, I think that would just be fair to the community that this will be affecting. Obviously, I totally understand why you all are doing this. I mean, this is your job to make sure that the community is operating in a safe, healthy manner. And I think in theory, these are all good, but after hearing the perspectives of the people that are going to be affected by this, it does seem a bit, or not a bit, but it does seem unfair. And I'm just trying to find some kind of middle ground where we can come to an understanding of just making this a more safer, law-abiding practice. Because yeah, I agree that that what you're intending to stop is absolutely happening, because there's just so much proof of it. I've talked to the city attorney about ways that we can address it in a different manner, whether we can regulate anything like that, but it's a state issue from what I was explained to, regardless if we're a charter city, right?
Correct. Committee Member Gutierrez, correct. We're preempted under law on any kind of regulation on that.
Right. So, I mean, ideally, we'd regulate it to make sure that nothing bad was happening and it was being safe, but we can't do that here. So I understand why you all are doing this, but I just feel like we need more time to kind of iron this out before moving it forward.
Could we pause and ask City Attorney Duemas and City Clerk Crisanti what the next date would be if we were to table it and keep it in ordinance?
Sure, Chair Sen, I was told by Ms. Crisanti, so the next available ordinance date would be February 10th. I don't know how much outreach can be done, at what level you're seeking in that month period of time. Another alternative date would be March 3rd, right? March 3rd. So those are dates we're looking at. Or, like I said, or in the alternative, you could also direct us to a date to go to council. So you can say to us, do not go the next meeting, but go like March 3rd or March 10th, or I believe March 17th is our last date before the 2-week spring break. And you could say, bring it to council that date, and that gives you a long runway for public outreach too, so if you want that option.
Will you repeat that date? Oh.
Sorry, could I interrupt for a second? There are also some clerical issues in the current massage ordinance that we'd like to make known. I don't know if this meeting would be appropriate or in the follow-up meeting.
It would, no, at the end, before we're ready to vote, I was going to bring that issue up just to point those issues out, so. But right now, we just wanted to focus on deliberation as to the issues that the chair brought forth.
Chair said, if you gave us direction, we would not come back to council until after spring break, which would give us more than enough time to do the outreach. We could have another meeting. We've already had, prior to even coming to ordinance, we put it out, but we will do more outreach. We would not come back to council before council break in March.
Okay.
So we're very cognizant of that. We hear that. It's going to take us that amount of time to do the work and be thoughtful about the options that we bring. So we will take whatever direction we're provided, but I don't know that coming back to ordinance is going to be the most effective versus giving us time to meet with everyone and make sure that when we come back to full council after council break in March, after spring break, we can look at whatever meeting that will be in April to come back to the full council, if that is your direction, making sure that we have those issues and that amount of additional community input.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, and I imagine that other council members will have input as well. But I didn't want to interrupt your comments. That was it? Okay. Did you have any comments on home occupation or live scan or the 500 hours, any of those? And I can come back to you.
Yeah, again, this is the reason why I want to table it, so we have more time to talk to the actual
Okay.
practitioners to discuss these items, because right now I don't feel comfortable passing it the way it is.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Rouse.
Okay, well, Chief stole my thunder as usual, but that's exactly what I was going to say, is that we've done, what I think you've demonstrated on staff's part and city attorney's part, is the flexibility to have a lot of latitude on how this is crafted. I don't think coming back to ordinance is the way to do that. I think, and it's also, don't think assigning a time certain when this is going to be heard again. I want to give Chief and her department and the legal experts, as you mentioned, legal law experts, in this particular field, the time to do outreach, the time to reach and hopefully mitigate some of the language issues that may or may not be there, get some more boots on the ground information going forward, and then come back with a more complete thing. I think you've heard direction from us, and I think you've heard some of our preferences. So I'm just going to put it out there as a motion to move this forward to council at such time as PD feels like it's ready to come back to council with a proposed ordinance and discuss it there. So I jumped the gun on you, Madam Chair, but I just put a motion out there just for that.
Thank you, Mayor Rouse. And your motion was then to bring it back to council after spring break and after taking the time for more outreach, cultural outreach, more outreach to the practitioners. Okay, so that's a motion on the table. I don't know if there's a second. Let's discuss.
You have the right to do that if you like, you know.
Sorry. Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know. Again, I don't want to kill this, so I'm just asking for it to be postponed so we can kind of flesh it out a little bit more. But I understand that bringing it to the full council in April would allow us to do that at that meeting. But yeah, I don't feel fully comfortable now moving it the way it is.
Okay.
If I may, Chair, in hearing the motion, so we still have a motion, we're waiting for a second. I do hear the words from the committee, so there are some open areas, and I do recognize also the one thing that the committee shares is this desire for more outreach. So I think it makes perfect sense to not have a date certain, but to come back, obviously, with conducting outreach. We can come back with an ordinance that has the corrections. In the interest of time, we don't have to go over those clerical errors, but we're going to correct them. And the ordinance itself, there's a basic template with the ordinance, and we'll have a fully robust, it's obviously a significant issue. We've had 2 meetings where we will have in the ordinance specific option languages for 3 areas, right? We have the ordinance as is, and we'll have an A and B when it comes to the CATMC training for their grandfathering provision or non, or whatever the council wants to decide on that, because this item won't be on consent. We'll have a A and B item for live scan, that's a simple one, and we'll have a A and B item for home occupation, one with an exemption language and one without. And we'll make sure those issues specifically are fully briefed. In the meantime, during these next weeks, the police department will do the outreach. So not only will present the options, but we'll also present the outreach that was done, committed, comments, and all that. So it'll take some time, but because it's going to take a lot of time to do that, at least it moves forward with clarity and allows, we recognize there are some difficult questions that need to be kind of ironed out, and it gives a full body of that. So we can proceed that way.
Yeah, thank you. That's precisely the intention of my motion, was that it gives us all the latitude, gives us a lot of discretion, and that gives the chief the amount of time that we need to pull it together without trying to rush it, without trying to schedule it. We just take our time on this one. So, and that'll give us a chance to do the most community outreach as well.
Thank you. And I realize there hasn't been a second yet. And hearing your summary, I think I would be okay with it moving forward to council as long as part of that motion is that we're not recommending it as is. Because I think what I heard you say was the options would be as is or with these changes. And I think it's important that we're not sending the signal out of ordinance that as is acceptable.
Correct. If you want to kind of rephrase the motion so we're clear on that, I think that'd be helpful. We can go that route.
I believe I used the word latitude as I spoke, and that's exactly what I meant.
Okay.
Was that latitude options? You gave us a bunch of options, a big menu, so it's not a very specific motion, but it just gives a general flavor that you're going to give us the most flexibility on both timing, community outreach, and latitude in terms of the choices. As Mr. Doymus pointed out, A and B on all the questionable items are in the ordinance, so.
Yes,
So we
and
could-
it's very,
Basically, I agree with you.
it's very clear that it does not come back as is. Your comments, we hear your comments loud and clear, and it does not come back as is.
If that's part of the motion, I will second it.
So we can do a motion to move the ordinance forward to council with not a date certain, with outreach and options for council to consider. Simple as that.
And the recommendation that
It's not as is.
it's not as is.
As is, correct.
Okay.
I have a draft.
Okay,
I'll read it.
thank you. If you could read it back to us?
Yes. Recommendation moved by Committee Member Rouse, seconded by Chair Sneddon, to return to council at a date to be determined and direct the department to conduct cultural outreach to practitioners and not recommending the ordinance as is today. Anything else added?
Thank you. And with options, with a variety of options.
With a variety of
Latitude
options.
expressed up here during the motion making,
I'll
for
just
both
put-
timing and content.
Okay. Is that acceptable to the maker of the motion? Okay,
Get her done.
acceptable
So
to
we're going
this.
to go ahead and take a vote. We're going to do a verbal vote and due to Mayor Rouse sitting in for Councilmember Jordan. So we will start with Committee Member Rouse,
Aye?
Committee Member Gutierrez,
Yes.
and Chair Sneddon.
Yes.
And that passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you to the public, and keep contacting us. Thank you.